Hello again, Ancestry cousins and Inquiring minds. This is the second video. We are going to stay on the Keith line for a little while. So we're going to talk about my second great grandmother, Emma Keith. She's the daughter of Daniel Keith. I was at a brick wall for a long time because I didn't know her birth name. I found her as Emma Norman. So when I finally found her death certificate, not her death certificate, her obit, and it had the street address. My mother had told me that they had lived at this address, 1448 P Street. And then it had all the names. Grandma Francis, my Uncle Johnny, my mama told me about, my Grandma Irma, Aunt Norma, wrong name though, had Norman. But what it listed was her sister and her brother. And so Joseph Keith of Kensington, Maryland. And that opened up, that kicked down that brick wall. I was in there. I was so happy. I was up for hours after that, researching something. I just got so tired, I just had to go to sleep. So what I found out also in her obit was that she was an elk. And where she was buried, the cemetery. So there was no need to do a find a grave story or anything like that, because that information is probably already out there. I'm not sure if I did one on her anyway, but that was a brick wall breakdown right there. So I'm gonna go on her, but what she had, some stuff that she hid that made it harder. Well, the obit kicked down that brick wall, but her information, let me just go to the census as for her and describe what was the obstacles. Okay, so for 1880, she's listed in Prince George's County, Vansville, with the father, mother, also with her siblings, Emma, Joseph, Bertie, and Elias Thornton, and Mary E. Thornton. So these are listed as the siblings of Anna Keith. So her maiden name was Thornton. Okay. So then in 1900, they're living at an address that I can't make out. So the indexer wrote it as Shion Street. I guess they couldn't make out. So let's say it's illegible handwriting. So what I did was go to view the image, and I looked at, zoomed in and looked at the top there is a district, and it has 0089. So I went in, clicked on that, and dropped all the way down to 0089 to find what the street was bounded by. And I didn't do it that way initially. I'm just breaking it down to make it simpler for you, because I always had to do things the hard way first. And it's bounded by Massachusetts Avenue, 1st E, Indiana 4th F, 3rd Northwest Squares, 531, 532, 564 to 569. Which, if you look on the side of the schedule, it does have East Street, 2nd Street, 4th Street, Horns, Madison, the street name that my ancestors lived on, which is illegible. It has 127, so someone lived at 127, which was Addison Day, and then my Daniel Keith at number 9. And then there's 2 more streets down there after that. So that looked like a revisit to me. So, and on this too, so let's look at who is living in this house with Daniel Keith. So you have Daniel, and they have Emma, which her name was Anne or Anna. They have Emma, which is the daughter, which is my great grandmother, Joseph, Bertie, and then they have a Cora Foster, Henry Foster, Richard Foster, who they says are their children, but they are not, and Betsy Taylor and Nat Tyler, who they have listed as rooms. They're roomers. So I wanted to I'm gonna speak on this location and how many people are living in this house at this time in 1900. So we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10 people listed living in this house. Okay, so to figure out what that house is, I went to the dwelling house, DC Alley Dwellings. Is Directory of Inhabited Alleys of Washington, D.C. Okay, so let me find it right quick. Too many windows open. I should close some. All right, so when you look at that, it goes to, so you can scroll down to Northwest Alleys, and between first and second, you will look down at E and F. It has Choose Alley, which it has 15 houses on Choose Alley. And on that, the sort of same street, on that schedule, it had E and F is Madison Alley, which has 18 houses, and it has F and G, which has Horns Court, which had 11 houses on that in that document. And this goes down and it tells you all about the alley houses in DC. I have another book upstairs that I will share some pictures with you that I'll just post, and you'll see that the alley houses only had 4 rooms. There was no bathroom. The outhouse was outside, and it had like a what they call a water pump, like a well that you pump the water, and I guess you took it in the house. The kitchen had a stove, but there was nothing else. It was one heater up downstairs and a stove in the kitchen, one heater upstairs, and that's it. So there was 2 rooms upstairs, one had a heater, 2 rooms downstairs, which was the living room and the kitchen. And I'm trying to just figure out where was it that 10 people could sleep in one as a room or in those small alley houses. Okay, so that was so to go on to the story about Emma. So I wasn't supposed to tell the alley house story yet, but they're going to. All right, all right. So then in 1900, like I said, they were living on Choose Alley, and we figured out that was number 9 Choose Alley. Okay. Oh, come on. Oops, I went too far back. Let's go back to facts. So by 1910, she's Emma Norman, not Emma Keefe anymore. She's living at 237 East Street Northwest, and she's listed as a widow. Okay. So this is where I'm like, okay, this is where I first find her in the 1910 census. So in this right here, with me going backwards, looking for a Frances Norman and an Emma Norman going backwards, it made me go on a wrong direction, because she's already listed as a widow in 1910. And I didn't know she was Emma Keith prior to that. So what I was searching for was Emma Norman. And so I had found an Emma Norman, and she was living in what looked like a rooming house with a bunch of other people. And then I found a Frances Norman who matched the same age that was staying in Kings and Queens County, Virginia, with some banks. And so I put that together, kind of like in my head, like how my family has gone through, somebody stay away while you getting your job together, get your life together. And I, and based following those documents too, but that was wrong. And I'm gonna tell you why it took me on this wrong road with that too. Okay, so in these city directories, Emma Norman states that she is the widow of Robert, and so I'm like, this is one of the reasons how I ended up in King and Queen County too, thinking that Frances Norman, because there was a Robert Norman and a Frances Norman living in King and Queen County too. And I was like, oh, that's her father and her grandmother down the road, somewhere from these banks that she's staying with down there. Wrong, all wrong. Okay, so I could never find a marriage record for Emma Keith and Robert Norman. So I was like, I searched DC, Maryland, and Virginia, nothing. And I keep seeing this Charles Norman. So I'm like, Charles Norman. So I add him on as her spouse and just start researching him. So here's what I found. So anyway, this marriage license from them shows that they were married Emma married a Charles Norman January 25th, 1894. Okay, and Francis was born about 1897, according to the 1910 census. So I decided, well, I already said that, and I added him. Okay, when I compared Charles Norman's addresses via the city directory compared to Daniel Keefe, because he's going to be the head of the household. Emma may not, be in there until she's on her own, making her own money, and she's the head of the household. It may have been other males that were listed too. So doing a comparison with Charles Norman, he was living at 1897 Chews Alley. In 1898, he was living at number 7 Chews Alley. Daniel Keefe was living at 1898. In 1898, he was living at 113 Chews Alley. So, in 1895, Charles Norman was living at 113 Chews Alley. And in 1896, Daniel Keefe was living at 113 Chews Alley. So in 1891, Charles Norman had moved to, in 92, he was living at 1373 C Street Southwest, as he was working as a waiter. So he's back to living with his father at this address. And Daniel Keefe is living in 1900 at 113 Chews Alley. And then 1901, number 9 Chews Alley. And then he moved to First Street after that. So I think, that's how I put Charles and Emma together, like right there together. So when I'm like, okay. So you'd be like, okay, that's kind of reaching. They were living on the same street, but to say that that was him may not be the case. Okay. So I said, Chews Alley had 15 houses. It's not a lot of people in that street. You know what I'm saying? Okay. So I had, like I said, the city directories were saying that was, that her husband's name was Robert. That's what she reported. Okay. So we're going to look. I have not that one. Okay, that's another story. Let me get off of that. I may have to go. So let's go to Charles Norman's tree. I probably put it there. Go down. Okay, so Charles Norman, on his World War, which one is this? Record. Maybe one. He's 44. Charles Ambrose Norman. He's staying at 829 Delaware Avenue on the 2nd floor in Southwest. He is working as a porter for Mr. Kaufman at Hub Furniture Company on 7th Street Northwest. We know what that is. And who is his nearest relative? Emma Norman. 1901 East Street Northwest. All right, I just want to see how he look, because I don't have no description of nobody. So he's medium height, he's slim, he has dark eyes and dark hair. That didn't tell me nothing about some reason. Anyway, 1901 East Street. All right. So let's see. Let's go back to Emma Keefe. And we're going to look at, that's what I said, 1920. I'm going to look in this, I got to look in the city directories, because those, okay, 1924, 1927, 22, 1915. Where is it? Let me go to Francis. I don't know why sometimes. Come on, thing. Which one is it? City Directory. Cleon, no. 50120. Come on. There it is. All right, so they left the city. I'm telling you, those city directories, don't sleep on those city directories, y'all, because I'm telling you, This is how I found out today. Like why she do that? Why she didn't say that her husband was Charles instead of and Charles was reported like, see, that she's my next of kin. So when you look on the city directory that I have for Frances Norman, it has that she's a domestic. She lived at 1901 East Street. And Emma right there too, renting at 1901 East Street. So what Charles said on his record, his World War registration record, was his next of kin. So I just don't understand why she had that deception on her record that his name was Charles Ambrose. His name was not Robert. The only thing that I know is that I looked it up and it said that, there was a stigma with single black females, because I looked at the date that they were married, and Francis's birth date. It looked like they were married before Francis was born by a few years, but by 1900, and the other thing was too that you never listed them as living together in the house, as far as I could tell in the city directories. But they didn't list Francis on the 1900 census as a person that lived there, and she was born. So that's one of the reasons why I ended up going all the way to King and Queen County and looking at all those records. But it was fun. I love my genealogy road trips, but it was a false trip. It was not the right information. So why Emma wanted to, be deceptive and say her husband's name was Robert and she was a widow when Charles was living right in Southwest at the time, I don't know. Some of these things I can only associate with some type of maybe stigma of being black and single and separated, or so they say widow. Okay, so see you next time. Thank you for watching.